welcome to Progressive Grocer Today. I'm Emily Crow, multimedia editor at Progressive Grocer. With this new podcast, we're taking a deep dive into market changing and often urgent topics that affect both daily operations and the longer term future of the grocery industry. Today, I'm here with Louis Martin, president of Conventional Grocery Products and chief commercial officer at Grocery Wholesaler UNFI, to talk about strategic differentiation. Lewis previously served as UNFI's president of wholesale, as well as chief strategy and transformation officer. He also had held several roles at the Coca-Cola Company during a 15-year-long career there. Lewis, thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Oh, Emily, thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. Well, I'd like to start off broadly with this topic and then zoom in a bit. Why is differentiation such an imperative in today's retail environment? And what does strong differentiation look like today?
Well, that is a great question and one that we are constantly talking to with our retailers each and every day, because the retail landscape that we're in, which I'm sure our listening audience can appreciate, is more competitive. It's more fast changing than it's ever been before. And so in that type of environment, differentiation is really how a grocery retailer can compete, build resilience, and be able to react to a very dynamic environment. And there's several key factors that, in my view, are reshaping the industry and that really require us to help our retail customers and partners become more distinctive. One is you're seeing accelerated consolidation across the board. Big mass retailers, they have more share today than they've ever had before in their history. And as they gain that scale and they gain access to more of your consumer facing resources and all the consumer data that drives decision making, it becomes much more challenging for a independent local or regional grocer to compete with that. You add that to some of the shifting behaviors we're seeing with consumers. You have more digitally native generations that are coming in. They're gaining more buying power, and their expectations on how they shop each and every day. Those expectations continue to evolve and change, not just in the way they shop, but what they're looking to shop for, whether it's healthier product choices, more personalized offerings that meet their unique occasions and needs. All of these are becoming much more important across the industry. And we need to help the industry and the partners that we work with help meet consumers to where they are, and not only where they are, but where they're going. And then when you add a third component to that, Emily, I'd say that pricing and commoditization has really become at the forefront of how we engage. The current macroeconomic environment, even leading into this year, we knew it was true. But if you look at all the challenges that are in place today, as consumer power and spending is going down, as you see different inflation impacts taking effect, it means that consumers are much more price driven. And they've always been price driven, but today's environment really is pushing that even further. And so in that, you take a look, and independents are going to have a challenge if they think they can compete purely on price alone against some of your big box mass retailer. They need to find other ways to compete. And so that's where we try to come in and help our grocers that we work with carve out clear value propositions. And we try to push and see what can they do that's unique or differentiated, because it's that strong differentiation that's really going to allow the independents that we work with gain identity, gain relevance, and ultimately, gain the staying power they need. And so that's the goal. That's the objective, is to help retailers with their offering that's unique, with their messaging and their promise to have a competitive value-added advantage that resonates with the consumers that shop in their stores.
So, double clicking in on that last part a little bit, how does UNFI collaborate with its independent retailers to help them stand out and distinguish themselves in that crowded landscape, especially as we head into the holiday season?
That's a great question. And it's something that we wake up every morning at UNFI thinking about. How do we help create value? That's our mission statement. And so we focus on helping not just retailers, but also suppliers execute their unique strategies. So part of what we can do as UNFI is, yes, we can leverage our scale, We can leverage some of our heritage and natural, organic, and specialty products and the assortment that that provides. We have a whole, set of unique value-added services. So it's not just the product that we deliver, but the services that we offer to help independents run their total business. We think all of those provide unique value in this dynamic environment. Um, but ultimately, our strategy starts with understanding each unique customer's strategy and how we can help create value so that that strategy is resonant and can continue to help them grow in the marketplace. And then we also work with our suppliers and introduce suppliers into the ecosystem. And how can we help small independent suppliers gain the scale so that their offering becomes available? And we have many different venues to do that through. But even our larger suppliers, our large national suppliers that also compete and participate across mass retailers, they understand the value of brand building and the brand equity that gets created when their brands can be part of our independent ecosystem. So, all that to say, I would probably characterize a couple of things that we as UNFI really try to focus on. One is product assortment, and I referenced some of our heritage, but the reality is we have the great pleasure of working with a breadth of suppliers, innovative, up and coming challenger brands that help provide differentiation on the shelf for some of our stores. We also have a very robust private brands portfolio that we offer. Many of our retailers leverage our private brands offering, not only to help position against, the categories, national brands that they also carry, but more and more, some of the private brands also are playing more on the premium side with the natural and organic importance that consumer place. So it's sort of a two-tiered private brand strategy. And then also to support product assortment. I'm very proud of our diverse supplier base. There's over 230,000 unique products that we offer that allow us to create a more customed, tailored experience and portfolio for customers for the region that they're in, for the consumers that shop in their stores. That's part of what we get up every day and focus on is how do we tailor that product assortment to best meet the needs. So I'd start with product assortment. And then I referenced, services that we provide to support differentiation. And in some cases, it's just our ability to provide scale to small independent retailers and grocers that they may not have access to otherwise. Whether it's the category insight data that we can generate that helps with decision making on the store and the shelf, whether it's some of the merchandising strategies that we can bring to life through our merchandising capability, which we now have tailored capabilities for both natural focused products and more conventional focused products. We've also introduced digital marketing platforms like the UNFI Media Network or UMN, which allows some of the independent grocers to access and participate in some of the supplier activation that the larger retailers kind of do in-house. And at the same time, is helping digitize and make more technologically advanced each of our retailers' ability to understand their shoppers' unique consumption patterns with the digital data that we can help support. So we offer a combination of analytics and services to our retailers and suppliers, and they're seeing the results of that come through, and it's helping them become more effective, more efficient, and hopefully paving a path for sustainability and success.
You use the word ecosystem, which is so interesting because it is just a massive ecosystem of all these parts and pieces
Yes.
working together.
Well, and I forgot to mention, you did ask about the importance of the holiday season.
Yeah.
All that differentiation that we talked about across our ecosystem, we can't treat our retailers the same. They have to be uniquely differentiated to live up to the promise of what we talked about up front. And so this holiday season is actually where I think we need to help our customers and suppliers shine. And it's a critical time for independent retailers. It's the bulk of their annual business happens in the next 3 to 4 months. And so our approach is how do we find ways to thoughtfully help them prepare for that peak season? We connect with our retailers with new and emerging suppliers that help supplement the differentiation in their stores. We provide insights on what the right level of inventory and products that you need to have inside your stores to really maximize the value during that holiday season. And all the way down to, providing hands-on demonstrations of our programs and our shows and service offerings so that they can have them in place and support their operations over the holidays. So we're definitely no, it's a full year job, but this is the season where we really need to shine.
And you mentioned the diverse supplier portfolio that UNFI has, as well as private brands. What can you tell me about that portfolio and everything that they offer?
Wow. Well, thank you for asking, Emily. I mean, it's something that we're very,
Good.
very proud of at UNFI as a differentiator. I think the numbers we have is about 11,000 different supplier brands and
Wow.
230,000 unique products in our network. And many of those are what you would call, your innovative, kind of emerging, better for you or healthier for you brand options. And now our independent retailers really serve as kind of innovation hubs or incubators for some of these new and emerging brands so that they can compete and grow. And our ability to start small, learn quickly which brands work, and then scale
Mhm.
fast is something that I think is very unique in terms of how we engage with the supplier portfolio and our private brands. And obviously we have a heritage in that, but almost everyone, no matter what store they're in, whether it's a conventional leaning store or a more natural leaning store, everyone's buying or looking for something that's natural or organic or
Mhm.
fresh. Freshness is so important, and how your store gives a sense of freshness in its products as you walk in is critical to consumers as they enter and that impression is set. And what we have seen is that these types of products are seeing sort of a steady annual growth of mid-single digits. I think it's been in that range right now. And as we project going forward, these types of unique brands are very healthy and are expected to continue to grow 5, 6% a year over the next 4 or 5 years, even with all the challenges they're seeing in the macroeconomic environment. And so we actually feel that our assortment of health and wellness products at UNFI is probably the largest one that is available. And that's what we're trying to lean in on to help retailers capitalize on these consumer shifts. And then you asked about our brands plus
Mhm.
specifically, as I mentioned earlier, we help grocers execute, private brand strategies in their stores. And so for that approach, we did is a couple of years ago, we probably had a universe of brands, but it was kind of scattered and we covered everything. And what we've done is
Mm.
we've kind of fine tuned that into kind of 8 core trademarks or brands. Each plays its role across different categories and
Good.
consumer sets. And within those 8 core brands, there's about 5,000 unique products across about 250 categories that we serve. So it gives you the ability to play where it's most impactful within each of our retailer stores in the categories where they're looking to accentuate differentiation. So, and those brands continue to evolve, and I'm excited about some of the innovation we've actually been able to introduce. Some of the brands we've introduced through our private label brands plus program are now category leaders, and
Oh.
so that's something that we're very proud of, and we want to continue to push on.
Well, speaking of private label, that was a perfect segue. I'm hoping you can get out your crystal ball as we wrap up here and tell me, how do you see the private label segment growing and changing in the coming years?
Well, it has been growing
Yeah.
disproportionate to the rest of the categories in space, and I think that the sentiment about private label, I've seen it change dramatically over the course of my career. It used to be that private label was, for lack of a better word, sort of the cheap,
Mm.
non-branded knockoff, and you expected to get a lower quality, something that resembled but wasn't quite the national brand. That perception has changed with over the last 10 plus years. These are no longer low cost copies, so to speak. What you see in private label is really a set of brands that are highly competitive from a price point, because that is an entry to being a private label. But they're still modern products that are either pushing the edge on innovation, pushing the edge on the category, and really pushing the edge on driving shopper loyalty for retailers. So part of the value proposition of having a strong private label brand program in your store is it creates loyalty because the
Yeah.
consumers keep coming back to it and
Mhm.
see it as a source of consistent quality that meets their needs. Um, and so as a result of that, you have seen private label outpace the growth of large mainstream brands. And I think that's something that's here to stay. It's going to continue. You even see it, some of the large retailers have, continued to reinforce their own private label presence that they've created. And that wouldn't be the case if they didn't see the value of that as well. Now, within private label itself, well, I think overall it's going to continue to outpace. I think the areas where we're seeing the most growth and we're excited to make sure that we continue to support, things like snacking options. There's more
Mhm.
people eating, micro meals and snacking throughout the day. Myself, between all my calls during the day, I don't have a chance to go
Right.
sit down and have lunch necessarily, but I have some nice snacking options that our private brands are able to offer. Or frankly, if it's not snacking, it could be more for indulgent snacks. And we,
Mhm.
our Woodstock brand, which is one of our 8 core brands, we just launched these freeze dried fruit blends, which are
Uh-huh.
fantastic. They're healthy and they're quick and on the go, and they're kind of
Mhm.
become a go to. In fact, we just opened a new corporate office headquarters, and you see them throughout the
Mhm.
office, and they disappear the moment they get put
Nice.
out. People need them. I think the other couple of trends that I would call out, and this won't be a surprise when I mention them, but these are trends that as a private label program, you need to make sure you're continuously leading. High protein options continues to be one. There's a lot of diets and fads, but ultimately people are looking for sustenance, and the high protein options are very critical there. And what I'd say is, we have a lot of those options coming through our Essential Everyday brand. We have a lot of them that we're showcasing on our show in January, whether it's chicken strips or wings or things that provide that quick, easy, snackable but protein option. And then, with dietary concerns that people always have, I think sugar-free options always continue to be something that you need to continue to introduce as more consumers are seeking. How do I get that indulgence? How do I get
Yeah.
that snack that makes me feel good, but also doesn't make me feel like I'm going away from my
Right.
own dietary objectives? And so, one of the things, for example, that we launched was again with Essential Everyday, which is one of our core brands, a zero sugar lemonade and cranberry apple juice, which provides, I think, both moms and other shoppers who are looking to shop for their family the chance to give them something delicious to their families, but also make sure that they're not ramping up that sugar content,
Mhm.
which is always something we want to be, very considerate of.
Yeah.
So those are a few examples that I would give. The last thing I would say is private label will also continue to outpace, in my view, because again, it's not just playing at the low end of the price. It's also
Yeah.
often playing as the premium brand offering, more natural, more organic, healthier for you than the national brands. And so as a result, it's got a dual role to play depending on the type of private label, which means it's got more space for growth.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, Lewis, thank you so much for these wonderful insights and for joining us today.
Well, Emily, I thank you as well, and appreciate the opportunity to be on. And as always, it's a pleasure to participate with you and your team.
Thank you. For more information about the Progressive Grocer Today podcast, please visit www.progressivegrocer.com/podcasts. You can also subscribe to this series wherever you typically listen to podcasts, including on Apple, Google, and Spotify. See you next time, and thanks so much for listening.